Asterisk when we talk about intelligence, most people immediately think about IQ, academic scores, problem solving, or how quickly someone can memorize facts. But over the years, researchers and life coaches have realized that a different kind of intelligence often matters more when it comes to success, happiness, and strong relationships. This is emotional intelligence, and while emotional intelligence might sound like some abstract idea, in reality, it shows up in the smallest, most subtle behaviors that people with high emotional intelligence display almost effortlessly. These behaviors are not loud or flashy. In fact, many of them are so understated that unless you pay attention, you might completely miss them. But they are incredibly powerful, because they reveal the ability to manage emotions, to connect with others on a deeper level, and to create an atmosphere of calm, understanding, and respect. Today, we are going to explore 7 subtle behaviors that show you have high emotional intelligence. And as you listen, you might even start to notice that you already display some of these behaviors yourself. If you do, that's a wonderful sign that your emotional intelligence is stronger than you think. Asterisk. Let's begin with something as simple as the way emotionally intelligent people pause before responding. Imagine you're in a heated argument with someone. The natural instinct is to react immediately, to defend yourself, or to attack back. But people with high emotional intelligence resist that urge. Instead, they pause. They give themselves a moment, even just a few seconds, to breathe, to think, and to process what's happening before they respond. This small pause might seem insignificant, but it can completely change the outcome of a conversation. By pausing, you prevent yourself from saying something impulsive that you'll regret later. You also show the other person that you're not just reacting emotionally, but that you're actually considering their words. That pause communicates respect and thoughtfulness, and it also gives you the space to choose a calmer, more constructive response. This is one of those subtle behaviors that can transform the dynamics of your interactions. Asterisk. Another subtle sign of emotional intelligence is the ability to notice small changes in other people's emotions. Have you ever met someone who can tell you're upset even when you're trying to hide it? They might notice the slight change in your tone, or the way your smile doesn't quite reach your eyes. This ability comes from a high level of emotional awareness. Emotionally intelligent people don't just hear your words. They observe your body language, your micro-expressions, and the energy you bring into a room. They pick up on the things that most people overlook, and they don't use this awareness to judge you, but to connect with you more deeply. They might gently ask, "Hey, are you okay?" Or they might simply give you space if they sense you need it. This kind of sensitivity can make others feel seen, understood, and cared for, even without dramatic gestures. It's a quiet superpower that emotionally intelligent people carry with them everywhere. Asterisk. Let's talk about humility. Another subtle behavior that reveals emotional intelligence. When you think about intelligence, it's easy to picture someone who wants to show off how smart they are, but emotional intelligence works in the opposite way. People with high EQ don't feel the need to constantly prove themselves. They know their worth, so they don't seek validation through arrogance or bragging. Instead, they listen more than they speak. They ask questions instead of giving lectures, and they're not afraid to admit when they don't know something. That humility makes them incredibly approachable. It also builds trust, because people can sense that they're dealing with someone who is authentic and grounded, not someone who is trying to inflate their ego. The subtlety here lies in what they don't do. They don't dominate conversations, they don't constantly correct others, and they don't make you feel small. Instead, their humility invites you to open up and share freely. Asterisk. Now think about patience. In a fast-paced world where everyone is in a hurry, patience is becoming a rare quality. But people with high emotional intelligence display patience almost naturally. It shows up in the way they allow others to speak without interrupting, or in the way they remain calm when things don't go according to plan. Patience doesn't mean they never feel frustrated, but it does mean they can regulate that frustration. They understand that pushing or forcing things rarely leads to better results, so they wait. They give situations time to unfold, and they don't let their emotions get the best of them. You might notice this when you see someone standing calmly in a long line, or when a colleague explains something slowly without showing irritation. These small behaviors demonstrate a level of self-control that's deeply tied to emotional intelligence. Patience creates an environment of safety and respect, making people feel valued rather than rushed or dismissed. Asterisk. Another behavior that stands out is empathy in action. Empathy is often described as the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, but in practice, it can look very subtle. For example, an emotionally intelligent person might notice that a colleague is stressed and quietly take something off their plate without making a big announcement about it. Or they might sense that a friend needs encouragement and send a thoughtful message at just the right time. These aren't grand gestures, but they have a profound impact. Empathy doesn't always require words. Sometimes it's in the quiet presence you offer when someone is hurting, or the way you validate another person's feelings without trying to fix them. The subtle behavior here is that emotionally intelligent people don't make empathy about themselves. They don't say, "Oh, I know exactly how you feel. Let me tell you about my story." Instead, they hold space for the other person, allowing them to feel heard and understood. This creates stronger bonds and deeper trust in relationships. Asterisk gratitude is another subtle but powerful behavior. People with high emotional intelligence don't take things for granted. They notice the small acts of kindness that others show, and they make an effort to express appreciation. It could be as simple as sincerely thanking someone for their time, or acknowledging a small gesture that might otherwise go unnoticed. Gratitude shifts the focus from what's missing to what's already present, and emotionally intelligent people cultivate that habit because they understand how it impacts relationships. When you make someone feel appreciated, they're more likely to feel motivated, valued, and connected. Gratitude also benefits the person expressing it because it creates a positive mindset that reduces stress and increases resilience. This isn't about over-the-top flattery or forced compliments. It's about genuine recognition, and that's what makes it so subtle and so powerful. Asterisk, let's not forget about adaptability. Life is full of unexpected changes, and emotionally intelligent people have a remarkable ability to adjust without losing their balance. You can see this in the way they handle disruptions. If a meeting suddenly gets rescheduled, they don't explode in frustration. If a plan falls apart, they don't spiral into negativity. Instead, they adapt, they reframe the situation, and they keep moving forward. Adaptability doesn't mean they don't care about plans or goals, but it means they don't let their emotions control them when things shift. This is subtle because it often looks like calm acceptance, rather than dramatic resistance. And yet, this behavior is a clear signal of emotional intelligence. It shows resilience, flexibility, and a deep understanding that life rarely goes exactly as expected. By adapting gracefully, emotionally intelligent people not only reduce their own stress, but also create stability for the people around them. Asterisk so far, we've touched on pauses, emotional awareness, humility, patience, empathy, gratitude, and adaptability. Each of these behaviors might seem small, but together they create a powerful presence. Being around someone with high emotional intelligence feels different. You feel calmer, more respected, more understood, and more valued. That's because these subtle behaviors shape the energy they bring into every interaction. And while some people are naturally more emotionally intelligent, the good news is that these behaviors can be developed. By practicing small changes in the way you listen, respond, and manage your emotions, you can gradually strengthen your emotional intelligence as well. Asterisk now. Let's go a little deeper into how these behaviors show up in everyday life. For example, imagine you're at work and a project suddenly gets delayed. A person with low emotional intelligence might lash out at the team, express anger, or blame others. But someone with high emotional intelligence will acknowledge their disappointment, regulate their emotions, and then focus on solutions instead of blame. That subtle shift in response creates a completely different atmosphere for the team. Or take another scenario. You're with a friend who seems quieter than usual. Most people might ignore it, but a person with high EQ will notice the subtle change and gently check in, offering support without prying. These small moments accumulate over time, building stronger bonds and healthier environments. Asterisk. Think about how emotionally intelligent people approach conflict. Conflict is inevitable in life. No matter how kind or thoughtful you are, disagreements will happen. But the way you deal with conflict reveals a lot about your emotional intelligence. Those with low emotional awareness often escalate situations, raise their voices, or cling tightly to being right. But someone with high emotional intelligence approaches conflict differently. They stay calm, they listen actively, and they try to understand the other person's perspective. They don't see conflict as a battle to be won, but as an opportunity to understand, to collaborate, and to grow. This doesn't mean they avoid conflict altogether. In fact, emotionally intelligent people are willing to have difficult conversations when necessary. But the subtle behavior lies in their tone, their body language, and their choice of words. They don't humiliate or belittle. They focus on the issue, not the person. And because of this, they're able to resolve conflicts in ways that strengthen relationships instead of destroying them. Another subtle behavior is the ability to remain present. In today's world, distractions are everywhere. Phones buzzing, notifications pinging, thoughts constantly racing ahead to the next task. Yet, emotionally intelligent people make you feel like you're the only person in the room when they're with you. They maintain eye contact, they listen without checking their phone, and they respond thoughtfully instead of with half-distracted nods. This level of presence communicates respect, and it makes conversations deeper and more meaningful. Think about how rare it feels when someone truly listens to you without rushing or interrupting. That's why presence is such a powerful, subtle sign of emotional intelligence. It shows that they value the moment, they value you, and they're not letting distractions pull them away. Kindness is another understated yet revealing behavior. We often think of kindness as big gestures, but emotionally intelligent people display it in small, consistent ways. They hold the door for someone, they let someone merge in traffic, they greet people with warmth, and they treat everyone with respect, from the CEO to the janitor. These little acts of kindness might seem insignificant, but they build a reputation of compassion and empathy. They're not performed for show, and they don't come with the expectation of reward. They're simply an extension of the way emotionally intelligent people see the world. They understand that kindness costs nothing, but it creates ripples of positivity that can change someone's entire day. Let's talk about the way emotionally intelligent people use language. Their choice of words reveals their awareness. Instead of saying, "You never listen," they might say, "I feel unheard in this situation." Notice the difference. One blames, while the other expresses a feeling. That shift in language reduces defensiveness and invites dialogue. They also avoid sweeping generalizations like always or never. Instead, they describe specific behaviors, which makes their communication clearer and more constructive. Their words are chosen not just to express their own emotions, but also to consider how those words will impact the other person. That's why conversations with them often feel smoother, less confrontational, and more productive. This doesn't mean they're fake or overly diplomatic. It means they're mindful, intentional, and aware of the power that words carry. High emotional intelligence also shows up in the ability to laugh at oneself. This might sound trivial, but it's deeply revealing. People who lack emotional intelligence often take themselves too seriously. They feel attacked when someone points out a mistake, or they become defensive if they're teased. But emotionally intelligent people can laugh at their own quirks and mistakes. They understand that imperfection is part of being human, and they don't let their ego get in the way. This subtle behavior makes them approachable and relatable because it shows humility and self. Instead of building walls of defensiveness, they create bridges of humor and authenticity. Another subtle but powerful sign is how emotionally intelligent people respond to success, both their own and others. When they succeed, they celebrate. Without arrogance, they're proud, but not boastful. When others succeed, they genuinely celebrate too. Instead of feeling threatened or envious, they feel inspired and supportive. This attitude comes from a secure sense of self-worth, which is a key part of emotional intelligence. They don't see life as a zero-sum game where one person's win means another's loss. They understand that there's room for everyone to thrive. Their ability to genuinely appreciate the achievements of others builds stronger connections and eliminates unnecessary competition. There's also something important about the way emotionally intelligent people handle criticism. Criticism is something most people dislike because it feels personal, and it often stings. But emotionally intelligent people approach criticism with curiosity rather than defensiveness. They ask themselves, is there truth in this feedback? Is there something I can learn here? They don't automatically reject it or become hostile. Even if the criticism is delivered harshly, they filter out the negativity and look for the useful part. This behavior is subtle because it doesn't always show on the surface. What you see is someone calmly listening, maybe asking, clarifying questions, and thanking the person for sharing their perspective. What you don't see is the internal process of emotional regulation and open-mindedness that allows them to benefit from the experience instead of being crushed by it. Self-awareness is another cornerstone of emotional intelligence, and it often shows up in subtle ways. For example, someone with high self-awareness might say, "I'm feeling a bit stressed today, so I may need some space to recharge." That kind of statement might not seem like a big deal, but it reveals a deep understanding of their own emotions and their impact on others. Instead of lashing out when stressed, they acknowledge their feelings and communicate them responsibly. This subtle behavior prevents misunderstandings and keeps relationships healthy. Self-awareness also shows up in the way they reflect on past experiences. They don't just react to life, they learn from it, adjusting their behaviors over time. To grow as individuals, one of the most beautiful subtle behaviors of emotionally intelligent people is their ability to make others feel important. They do this by remembering small details, like your favorite drink or the story you told them weeks ago. They recall your birthday, they check in after you mentioned a challenge, and they show that they care about your life beyond surface interactions. This isn't manipulation or flattery, it's genuine attentiveness, and it makes people feel seen, valued, and respected. In a world where so many people feel invisible or unheard, this small behavior creates a massive impact. Another subtle behavior worth noticing is how emotionally intelligent people handle silence. Most people feel uncomfortable with silence in conversations, rushing to fill it with chatter, but someone with high EQ is comfortable letting silence exist. They understand that silence can be a space for reflection, for thought, or simply for presence. They don't force it, they don't awkwardly fill it, they just allow it. This creates a sense of calm and patience in conversations, and it often encourages the other person to open up more deeply. Now let's imagine an everyday scenario that combines many of these subtle behaviors. Picture a team at work facing a stressful deadline. Tension is high, and everyone feels overwhelmed. One team member, however, quietly observes the situation. They notice who looks the most stressed, they listen patiently as others vent, and they offer calm reassurance. Instead of snapping at mistakes, they acknowledge the hard work being put in. When someone makes a suggestion, they encourage it instead of dismissing it. When the pressure peaks, they pause, breathe, and refocus. The group, they don't necessarily say much, but their presence lowers the tension in the room. This is emotional intelligence in action. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's powerful and transformative. What's fascinating about emotional intelligence is that it doesn't just make you better at relationships with others, it also improves the relationship you have with yourself. Those subtle behaviors of patience, self-awareness, adaptability, and gratitude also protect your mental health. They prevent you from spiraling into negativity, they help you manage stress, and they allow you to bounce back from setbacks with resilience. It's almost like having an internal toolkit that helps you navigate the ups and downs of life with balance and strength at its core. Emotional intelligence is about harmony. Harmony between thoughts and feelings, between you and others, and between challenges and growth. And while the behaviors that reveal it may be subtle, their impact is anything but small. They ripple outward, influencing not just how you feel, but how the people around you feel too. Over time, these behaviors create a foundation of trust, respect, and positivity that enriches every aspect of life.